So you're looking to improve your life. What kind of knowledge do you need to obtain to be able to do that? Now, I think the best kind of knowledge is timeless knowledge, or one that essentially requires very little maintenance. And that's what I'm talking about today, is 4 different categories of knowledge that I think you just need minimal maintenance that can help dramatically improve your life. And these different categories will bleed over into all aspects of your life. Now, some of these you may know, some of these you may not know, but if you stick to the end, I think there is one particular category that is rarely even talked about. So let's get this video started. So the first category I actually want to talk about here is one that everybody is well aware of, and that is your health. But the thing that people like to do when it comes to your health is they like to separate the mind from body. And this is something I have touched on. And one thing you need to understand is they are one and the same. You neglect one, it will affect the other one. You think you are sick, your body will be sick. Right? You put garbage in your body, your mind will become foggy and unclear. This is why it's extremely important to make sure you're maintaining not only your body and making sure you're getting your exercise on a daily basis, and make sure that you are eating a healthy diet, and make sure you're not going on any kind of crash diets or anything that's not sustainable, and know that it's going to be a lifestyle change. And once your diet's in check, you also need to check your mind, making sure you are essentially doing what you can to help improve your mindset. Make sure you have that positive self-talk. Make sure you're doing some kind of meditation. Make sure you are blocking out time every day to do both the mental and physical side of essentially your life, right? Your life is based off of this foundation of health. And yes, you can go on for a while with neglecting your health, but you have to realize that you are essentially building everything on a foundation that's built off of cards and ready to tumble down. And so this is why I feel if you can get a solid knowledge of a good, healthy plan that works for you, and that's not some crash diet that you're just waiting the 90 days to be over so that you can go back to the way of eating or of neglecting your mindset, but if you can make it a priority every single day and block out that time, you are building a strong foundation in which everything else will essentially hold solid. You won't fall down. You won't be building your foundation on, again, a stack of carbs. You have a solid foundation. You can move into these other different things. And for myself, I've done a lot of deep knowledge, and I am plant-based because of the research that I've done and the health scares that I've had in my life. It works for me. It may not work for you. You may feel that it is not the diet for you, but you have to remove the word diet and change to lifestyle. Make it a lifestyle change and make sure it is the foundation in which all of this is going to stand. So the next category I want to talk about is finances. And this is extremely important because if you soak some knowledge up here, you can improve your life dramatically. You can essentially leverage the money that you have and 10x it by grasping a knowledge of finances, personal finances, investing, learn about business, learn about real estate, learn about those things that can make you money essentially while you sleep. So you're not working the rest of your life. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to work until I'm 80 years old, right? And if I am doing any kind of work at that point in my life, I want it to be work that I enjoy doing, work that I actually want to do and not something I am forced to do. And that's what's extremely important. You need to grasp a knowledge of finances. And I myself, I've always been big into personal finances and have actually let that essentially leak into the stock market right now. I do a lot of stuff in the stock market now. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's not something I ever thought I would enjoy, but realizing that, the way you can leverage your money in the stock market, yes, it is very risky, but there are other ways around it to where it is not so risky, as in picking individual stocks you believe are going to essentially be somewhere in 5 to 10 years, and selecting those individual stocks and watch your money grow. Are you just going to leave someone else essentially in charge and just pay them, not knowing what they're doing, and realizing that these people they don't really care that they're essentially there to make money off your money, and they can just throw it in an index fund, and it'd be perfectly okay there, right? And this is the biggest misconception that we don't understand, because we don't educate ourselves on finances or the stock market or anything like this that can leverage your money. You realize the sooner you do this, the better you can leverage your money, and then the quicker you can get out of essentially in any kind of rat race and essentially controlling your future. Do you want to work for 60 years, or do you want to work for just 10 or 12 years? That's ultimately what we're doing here when you're trying to reach out and learn more about finances, what you can do. There's things like the FIRE movement, right? There's all these other different avenues you can do to improve your life through finances. Now this next one is most obvious, and we all are aware of this because we like to procrastinate, but it is time management. It's getting the most out of your time, leveraging your time, because time is something we don't have, and it is something I do harp about a lot on this channel, is trying to leverage the time that you do have and make the most of it. Now, I did just talk about finances and saying, do you really want to work for 60 years of your life? Or do you want to work 10 years? Work really hard in those 10 years and you can get to where you want to go by leveraging other things. By leveraging your time is one of the biggest things. Now, one of the biggest caveats here is you need to understand that, hey, you can go for that big job. Right? You can be a programmer, you can be a doctor, you can be all these other different things that pay well, but you have to realize that you are getting paid by the hour. You essentially have to give your time for a dollar amount. Now, if you actually created something that you could use and put out there, like these YouTube videos, you do it one time, it is out there. And it continues to essentially bring in revenue, right? There are other ways you can navigate on this path and try to leverage your time. Perhaps you want to get healthy and you want to learn. So why don't you run with an audiobook or walk with an audiobook, right? Try to leverage your time. You want to look for the different parts in your life where you can leverage your time and try to knock out as many things at one time. Now, there may be some particular situations where you need to focus more, and that may be a little bit harder for you. Now, for myself, a good example would be, trying to lift weights. I tried to lift weights and listen to audiobook. That was something I could not do. I couldn't leverage anything other than just working out, lifting weights. It was too hard for me to concentrate on the book and to work out intensely. So what did I do? So I essentially saved the book till the times I could actually run. And when I was running, I was taking advantage of that time because my mind wasn't so intense, right? You kind of get in this flow state to where you're just running and you're not really paying attention, but you can still focus, right? You typically will daydream during this time, or whatever the case is, or plan, or world domination, whatever the case is. But the biggest thing is that you can listen to an audiobook at this time. At least for me, that's what I found I could leverage my time better so I can get healthy and learn something new. So this is ultimately what you want to do, is find those things in your life where you can leverage the time that you have. And I know some people, your time is very short, and so you may only have an hour a day. So maybe that hour a day you want to get healthy. So you're going to work out, right? Because that's the number one building block I've discussed in this video, is that you want to try to get healthier. But if you are running, if you have the chance to run, or you have the chance to work out, to do just like a small at-home workout, try throwing in an audiobook and learning something new, something that can improve your life. Maybe it's about health, maybe it's about finances, but ultimately what you want to do is try to leverage the time that you have the best that you can. Maybe you have to write your schedule out for the week and follow that essentially, so you make sure that you are executing on that task daily. And a lot of times what might help here is to have essentially a checklist for that day. And then this helps with that procrastination and all that, because you find if you are just more concentrated on executing what's on that list as opposed to giving it thought, so you stop the procrastination and just go A, B, C, D, just keep knocking them out, right? and not allow yourself to think about that process and just execute off that list, and you realize this will actually help you a lot. So again, 2 things here. What you can do is you can use a checklist to help with the procrastination and with the execution of getting stuff done, and also to try to leverage your time. What you ultimately want to do is get some knowledge in this area, and do the best that you can, and continue to execute, continue to experiment to see what works for you. Like I said, some things worked for me, some things didn't. Find what works best for you and try to leverage your time. So this last category I think is extremely important and can really benefit you in life and bleed over into all aspects of your life, and that is people skills. It's essentially being able to sell yourself to other people, and although you may not think of it that way, it is that way. You are always selling yourself, whether it's a relationship or a job interview, right? You're always trying to sell yourself. What value do you bring? And this is something that I struggled with when I was younger. I've always been an introvert, and I've always found it to struggle to essentially hold a conversation with anybody that wasn't any particular topic that I wasn't aware of or had any knowledge of. And so I really try to do my best by going out and finding those people skills and obtaining that knowledge. Now, there's a lot of different things here that you may not even be aware of, and I have talked about them on this channel a little bit, but it's just the small intricacies of body language, having an open frame, the way you stand, the way you look at people, if your head is up, if you look people in the eye. All these little things play a big difference in the way people perceive you, the way you perceive yourself, and the dramatic differences it can have in your life. Not only body language, but it's also learning about how to carry on a conversation. I've always found was really intriguing, right? I had to obtain knowledge about that, about going back to previous things that person mentioned, because a lot of times people will default to the simple things like, hey, how's the weather? Or hey, what do you do for your job, right? These are just essentially kind of filler questions, but if you can essentially pry stuff, which sometimes with some people, it can be pretty hard to get information out of them, but right, they typically will leave you like little breadcrumbs that you can essentially attach and realize when you were talking to someone, they may be like, well, you know what? You may ask, well, hey, how was your weekend? And they said, oh, well, I took a boat out and, it was fun. We had fun and it was a great weekend. And essentially that's it. That's pretty much what I did. And then you're like, okay, well, what kind of boat was it? What were you guys doing? Were you guys fishing? And, there are different things you can try to open up in that small little the segment, right, that they're giving you, and try to expand upon it, and you realize that will bleed into other things. And then perhaps maybe you realize that Susie was on the boat. Well, hey, I know Susie. I didn't realize that you knew her too, right? It opens up a bunch of other different things. So to try to understand people's body language, and to understand how to hold a conversation and what to look for, and then when you obtain this knowledge, you want to put it into practice. And the best way to do that is to get out there and talk to as many people, and then try to pick up on these things. And you realize, the more awareness you try to have in those conversations, you realize that, whoa, my body is closed off. Maybe I need to open up more. So, because you realize that if you're closed off, people will become closed off just because of the way you're standing. And I've noticed this I've obtained knowledge on body language and realized that this is very much to be true, that the way you stand is the way, people interact with you. And if you stand distant or apart from people, right now you can't really help that, but there's a lot of different body language that really helps, right? Just smiling makes a huge difference. And one of the biggest things here is to understand that even smiling on the phone, essentially, it changes the whole dynamic of your voice by just smiling. And you wouldn't think about that. If you didn't have that knowledge, you wouldn't comprehend the fact that, man, I don't smile, so I don't understand why I didn't get that, that job, because I don't know if I had the qualifications, but maybe you didn't have the energy, right? And so to understand this, it's just by doing the simple things like smiling, right? And trying to understand essentially the way people think, how we interact with each other, and to understand that there's these small things that you can improve on that make a big difference in your life and can build relationships, whether that's, for a job, business, or even for a relationship. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to share it with other people. Hit the like button on the way out because it does help the YouTube algorithm. Till next time, I will see you guys later.